Because I walk into the building every day and I'm basically the dumbest person in this building. And I am totally fine with that. There are smarter people than me here every day working, and I get to learn something from them.
Max Cupp is the Executive Director of Exponential Impact, the engine turning Colorado Springs into a startup powerhouse.
I didn't really know anybody when I moved here. So I looked at the city calendar, and every day for about 4 months, I was trying to find an event that I would put on my calendar and just show up.
I picked up a term, Mudita. Talk about that.
Really, Mudita, it's the vicarious joy that you receive when somebody else is experiencing joy. It's the most unselfish thing that you can do.
Would you guys say you guys are like a Y-Combinator?
That would be a very similar yeah, exactly. We'd be comparable. So we don't take equity. We're focused on the entrepreneur at the core of that business.
I wanted to talk about this concept that you had to ideas in the air. Break that down for us.
We can create spaces and places where people from all different backgrounds come together, and there are just going to be ideas floating in the air from that. And that is where innovation occurs. It was my second day on the job. I had to give a speech in front of about 150 people. Senator Hickenlooper was there. It was definitely one of those times where it's like,
All right, folks. So we want to take a quick minute to introduce our diamond sponsor, Chris Seegers with Exceptional Business Advisors. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your business, sir?
Man, a question that we love to ask our potential clients is, do you know what your business is worth? And if you sold your business today, would it fulfill your personal and financial goals? If you're a successful business owner, but you don't know when or how to sell your business, and if you've ever wondered what each additional day in your business is actually costing you, we'd love to chat. If you're ready to spend more time with your family, your friends, or traveling, come sit down with our team, because when you work with exceptional business advisors, we'll help you build a blueprint to sell your business successfully and help you create, capture, and achieve your dream life. Don't wait for the right time. The time's now. Go ahead and scan the QR code or book a discovery appointment at excoadvisors.com.
Now let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the #1 business podcast in Colorado.
Love it. Today's sponsor is Brightleaf Energy. You can find out more about them at brightleafenergy.co.
Awesome. Well, today we have on an amazing guest who's had an interesting journey, and we're excited to learn about your journey. Today we have on Max Cupp, who is the Executive Director of this exact space right here, Exponential Impact, that we're in right now. We do transform the place a little bit, so a lot of people don't even notice it, I don't think. But yeah, man, so I'm excited to learn like about your journey. Like, how does one even get into being an executive director of a enterprise like this, or a business? Like, I don't know. Is it enterprise? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, accelerator, entrepreneur support org, kind of you name it. And that's a great question. I ask myself that, and I have been asking that for about the last 16 months since I started. But I mean, before I get into that, I just want to say thank you guys for being in this space all the time, because what you guys are doing for the business community, for the Springs, is huge. Like that, this matters. So thank you guys for using the space.
I think it matches the ethos of the space, you know, because we're accelerating in a way, quote unquote, small like people that wouldn't have that exposure otherwise, you know?
Definitely. So I love it. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, you know, a little bit about my background. I'm from Michigan, so grew up in Lansing, or Holt technically, which is South Lansing. Spent most of my life there, moved to Ann Arbor, went to school in Michigan, and lived in Ann Arbor for about 8 years. I got my degrees in sport management and urban planning. So kind of completely different from tech and entrepreneurship. Actually, after I got my sport management degree, I decided I didn't really want to work in sports. I was like, I want to enjoy sports. That's my hobby. So I didn't want to go work for the NCAA or any of those organizations. But I found a tech company in Ann Arbor that I worked for a year doing inside sales, and that was a grind. And so, you know, hitting the phones every day, sending emails every day. And at that point I said, you know, I think I'm going to go back to school. And I had a professor for a stadium development class that talked a lot about how do you create spaces and places where there's ideas in the air, like people can from all different backgrounds come together and they start to generate culture, they generate new ideas, innovation, like all of that. And so I said, yeah, I'm going to go and try to be an urban planner. Went to school for a couple of years in Michigan, worked for a real estate developer around Ann Arbor for a few more months after school, saved up some money, and then moved out to the Springs. So
What year was that?
that would have been 2017, very
Okay.
beginning of 2017. Yeah, so I'm coming up on 9 years here.
Mm.
But I love it here. I mean, I think it's one of the only places where you could come in like I did, you know, being kind of fresh out of school, a little bit of experience, you know, trying hard and being able to network your way into a position pretty quickly. And being able to kind of build those connections to start to move yourself up. I didn't really know anybody when I moved here. So I looked at the city calendar, and every day for about 4 months, I was trying to find an event that I would put on my calendar and just show up. So I was showing up at
Every day?
Every day. Like
I love
I was showing up
That's
at
exactly what I did when I got here.
yeah, it's like, I mean, they're, you know, every meeting I would reach out to people. I'd say, you know, hey, who else do you recommend that I meet with? And I got lucky, like folks like Hannah Parsons, Susan Edmondson. I know there's others, but they responded to me, and then they helped me connect with somebody else. And I showed up at Metro District meetings where, you know, there was 2 other people there, and I really had no
What's
reason
a
to be
Metro
there.
District meeting?
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, Metropolitan District, we have them all over the Springs, and they help essentially fund different services in different parts of the city. And so a lot of real estate developments or larger developments set up these Metro Districts to fund infrastructure type things.
Okay.
So I, you know, showed up at city council meetings. I ended up going to a CONO meeting, so Council of Neighbors and Organizations, which is now Hey Neighbor. You know, got connected. I think actually, rewind that a bit. I walked into their office at CONO because somebody had recommended I go there.
Wow.
I walked in and met Sarah Voss, who was just sitting there, and I said, hey, I'd like to volunteer. And I ended up helping host one of their meetings for city council members. And then from there, got a part-time role and then brought on full-time and kind of accelerated from there to different spots. So, that was kind of my start here.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what brought you here? Like, what was Colorado Springs? Why?
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the time, mountains have always been the goal. My girlfriend had gotten a job with the public health department, and I said, well, I'm going to save up money and then I'm going to move out there. And so that was why Colorado Springs. And so I got the chance to get to mountains and never looked back, honestly. Like still have a lot of love for Michigan, and I miss water, but that's about it. I miss my family.
But why
of
not
course,
Denver?
but-
Why not Fort Collins? Why not Pueblo?
I mean, honestly, the Springs had a bunch of opportunity here. It was cheaper. We could afford to live here. We really wanted to be able to access the mountains. And for me, it was, I want to be able to hike. I wanted to try mountain biking. I love snowboarding.
Okay.
Like that was kind of my main thing was I wanted to be able to snowboard. And, you know, I did move to a spot that's a little further away to get to those things, but I was still able to go. And that was what brought me here.
Maybe we can work on getting Cheyenne Mountain slopes open again.
Yeah, I would love that. You know, let's get some snow first, and then I'm in, and then I'm totally in.
For sure.
But yeah, I love it here. You know, and they're really, you can find your way into opportunity quickly. I was able to sit in some really, I'd say, you know, important meetings in cool rooms with really smart people, pretty quickly. And
Why do you think that was? Like,
you know, I think in a big way, I think people just recognized that I was trying and I was showing up, you know, had education, spent time like learning. I had done a bunch of internships and had done a lot of the free work, which, you know, isn't the most sexy thing, but the thing that you got to do sometimes. And so I think that was a big piece of it, was just I was showing the effort. I was really trying to be prepared for every meeting as much as possible. And at the time, Dave Munger was the CEO or executive director of CONO, and he really brought me into a lot of those meetings. And a part of it was that I kind of leaned in and asked questions. I was quiet for the most part, but I asked questions, and when there was times when we needed to speak up, I took that moment to kind of offer a few things. But it was really interesting. Just I don't know. There's a lot to be said for just showing up, being prepared, and putting in work that somebody else might not do. Putting things down in writing. I was the guy who would kind of take the notes, write them down, write in what are the next actions, and then we would go do that thing. And so it was a really cool opportunity that I had.
And so like, I'm sure there's a process like before, like you said, you took the time to prepare for meetings. I'm curious, like, what does that process look like for you? Is it like sitting down for an hour? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was honestly creating an agenda for every meeting, even if it wasn't my meeting. And so understanding, here's exactly what I needed to get out of this, or what I was hoping to get out of this, understanding who was going to be at those meetings, and then taking the time to just write those things down. And here's the points that we needed to get across, and the information we needed to walk away with. And then honestly, just being intentional about trying to say, what are the next steps here? And if nobody else was picking up on who was going to take the lead on those next steps, then I would generally take that role. I was a yes guy for a while, for a long while. And in some ways still am. I think it's important to be open to being the one to say, hey, you know what? Even if I don't have all the answers, I can be the one to get this thing started. And then we can see where it needs to go from there. And I think that has helped. Honestly, it's helped me go quite a ways here in the city, and just saying how I'll be the one to try it out. I'll pull the meeting together. I'll take the notes.
People recognize that, I think.
Yeah. They and I, that's just what I found. Might not work for everybody, but it definitely helped me. So yeah.
We're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors.
Rain Tech.
Rain Tech is a trusted IT partner that keeps your business running smoothly.
From cybersecurity to cloud solutions and data recovery, they've got your back so you can focus on what you do best.
Learn more at rain.tech. That's RAIN.tech.
HR branches. Is your back office chaos? Are you buried in HR, payroll, and financial guesswork?
Your passion shouldn't be a prison. Savion HQ is your fractional back office partner. We merge HR, payroll, accounting, and tax to bring order to the chaos and make your passion profitable again.
Stop the bleed, get your freedom back. Find us at savionhq.com or email at hello@savionhq.com.
Data Hubs is a compliance, intelligence, and orchestration platform that helps organizations meet the requirements of frameworks like ISO 27001, SOC2, CMMC, HIPAA, GDPR, and more.
Data Hubs gives small and mid-sized businesses a premium compliance experience while cutting down the time, cost, and stress it usually takes to get across the finish line. Learn more at datahubs.com. That's datahubz.com.
Reveal Med Spa. Look and feel your best at Reveal Med Spas. With personalized plans that deliver real results, radiant skin, restored confidence, and natural rejuvenation.
At Reveal Med Spa, we see you. More than just aesthetic and wellness treatments, we provide a safe, judgment-free space where you feel valued, heard, and supported.
Visit revealmedspas.com.
I think it is literally just that too. We'll just double check. Book your next session at revealmedspas.com. That's revealmedspas.com. Fast Signs. From banners to vehicle wraps, Fast Signs delivers custom visual solutions to help your business stand out. Their team ensures your message is clear, bold, and effective. Get your signage needed handled at fastsigns.com. That's fastsigns.com. Dream Accounting Solutions.
Take the stress out of managing your books with Dream Accounting Solutions. They provide reliable expert accounting services tailored to small businesses. Simplify your finances at dreamaccountingsolutions.com. That's dreamaccountingsolutions.com.
Exponential Impact. Exponential Impact is driving innovation and entrepreneurial success in Colorado Springs. Supporting startups with mentorship, funding, and community resources, they help businesses grow and thrive. Learn more about their impact at exponentialimpact.com. That's exponentialimpact.com.
And now let's get back to the show.
With all these skill sets that you've been able to accumulate over the years, urban planning, community planning, all these different things, how did this what gold nuggets did you get from these to help you get into this role as executive director for Exponential Impact?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to add one more thing, which is that I'm the head coach for the Harrison High School baseball team.
That's awesome.
And I started that pretty soon after I moved here. So I'm coming up on, I think, my 6th year as the head coach. So it's so I've learned a lot in that, and honestly, a lot of it boils down to the 4 values that I talk about with our team all the time, which is it spells out PACT: preparation, accountability, confidence, and teamwork. And so for me, it's I just learned how much I need to be the one that's willing to put things down in writing. I got to show up every day prepared, and I got to show up to every meeting prepared. And so having taken the time to make sure that I know what's going to be happening, figuring out who's accountable in every meeting that we're in, and taking that accountability a lot of times. And the confidence piece generally stems from those 2 other things of being prepared, holding others accountable and yourself accountable, and being a good team player.
Yeah, I was going to say, from that baseball coach thing, I picked up a term, Mudita, which is something that I think that you use as a philosophy. Talk about that, because I think it's really interesting how you kind of incorporated that, not only to coaching baseball, I'm sure, to like all your other business endeavors as well.
Yeah, well, and I'll bring up another word there too, which is community. I joined, this would have been a couple years ago, I joined a group of coaches that essentially met virtually from across the country, and we were led by a junior college coach. And we met every week for about the 16 weeks of the season, and got to learn from each other. So it was conversations. He had a bit of a curriculum that he was running through. But I picked up that term from him, and he picked it up from the Alabama women's softball coach. But really, Mudita, it's the vicarious joy that you receive when somebody else is experiencing joy. And so, if I'm having a bad game, but my teammate is going out there and balling out, I can experience joy because they're experiencing it. And so it's the most unselfish thing that you can do is have that Mudita. And a couple years ago, we had a season where historically the program has not had a lot of wins, but we had a season where we got to about 500 and we had a chance at the playoffs at the end, which hadn't happened in a long time. And Mudita was a huge part of that. Players believed in it. And really you got to see it, you could feel it, you could hear it. And it was a special season. And truthfully, I just had a conversation last week with one of my guys of last year. I had a lot going on and I missed out on that Mudita. I kind of brought it in late to the team, about halfway through the season. And it kind of kills me. I'll look back on that and reflect on it a lot. But at the same time, I think it was a big learning experience for me of how important it is that, there's not as much ego. There's no selfishness if you have Mudita. And so that's what I really, really want to that's what I want to embrace in this city. It's what I want to embrace in our community. We got a lot of good people doing great things here in the XI community of startups and entrepreneurs. And so being able to experience that joy as they do great things, that means that's kind of everything in this community.
Totally. So. Did you play baseball growing up, I'm assuming then?
Yeah. I mean, I played up through high school. I actually didn't play my senior year because I had, of all things, rheumatoid arthritis. So
really?
Yeah. So I couldn't move my hands or my wrists, which was pretty awful.
Yeah, and it's needed
at
for
such
baseball.
a young age.
Yeah. It was at 16, so it was pretty brutal.
Oh man.
So I didn't end up playing senior year and didn't play a lot of it really until I found out what it was. Medicine is awesome now, and quick biologic and a couple other things, and I am honestly now I'm able to do pretty much everything. So yeah.
Wow. So, of course, growing up in baseball and being a part of a team sport teaches you a lot of life lessons. One is being a part of something that's greater than you, because you're part of a team, right? You have to contribute your role. Everybody else has to contribute their role, and together you create something special, which is a team. Talk about what lessons you learned from doing that early on in your life.
I think honestly, one of the biggest things is just, it's the diversity of just people you get to work with playing on different teams. You get to work with everybody from every different background, and you get to experience all different cultures and playing a sport. Everybody at the end of the day is coming out here with one common goal or one common vision. And with that, because you have that trust, you get to learn from each other more. And so you really get to learn about somebody's background, and you get to learn and you get to share with them your background. And so to me, it's like, it's one of the ultimate ways that you really get to elevate like community and culture is, we're sharing, we're exchanging, our ideas, we're exchanging our cultures, our innovation, all because we have a common goal and we're willing and we've built trust with each other. And so there's something to that, just the trust that you can build, or the relationships that you can build, that to me has, I think, set a foundation for where I've gone in terms of, in my mind, it's building community is really my job. And so that's what I focus a lot on. And at the base, you can only do that if you have a massive amount of trust between everybody that's involved in that community.
So I'm sure that's a good building block when you're coaching your baseball team at Harrison, and then of course coaching businesses in your role now, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's the vulnerability of, if you're out there on the field, like everybody knows whether you put the work in or not. Like the field shows it. And so that preparation, that accountability, those things come in at an early age from just being involved in sports in some capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about like you coming into the role here, because you've been here for about 16 months now.
Yeah.
In fact, Andrew and myself have been here, and Edgar have been here actually longer than you in this space. But talk about like coming on and like using those prior skills to, fulfill your role here at XI.
Yeah. So, I came on August of 2024, and I think it was my second day on the job. We were in the middle of COS Rising. So I had to give a speech in front of about 150 people as we opened our new location at the Switchback Stadium.
Yeah.
I think Senator Hickenlooper was there, and like it was definitely one of those times where it's like, put up or shut up. Just, you're kind of being thrown in there, like, go out and speak. And to me, it was a time where I could share just, short story and kind of just a little bit of vulnerability and just start to build that trust. And I think I was able to do that, honestly. I think I did a good job of that in that first showing, I guess. But, I really, for me, because my background isn't tech and entrepreneurship, I had to learn a lot in this first year. And so, it was really being intentional about, hey, I'm meeting with tons of our founders all the time. I'm meeting with folks who have had a ton of success, folks who have had a lot of failures. And I'm trying to learn from them. I'm learning some of the lingo. I'm reading the books on, how to create a startup ecosystem and kind of what fosters some of those, like what do startups need? And so for me, it was a lot of learning in that first year, and also just, learning how our team operates. And we have one of the, I would say probably the best team in this city, but we have some of the best people. And, learning what Rachel's really good at and what Coral are really good at. And then bringing on a marketing director, John Michael, who's, fantastic and has been really up in our game when it comes to marketing. A lot of it's kind of just understanding, what are the things that we can all do individually and collectively towards a vision of setting up a startup ecosystem in this city, and really bringing together the different players in this ecosystem.
Is that the goal of Exponential Impact?
Yeah.
What would you say the goal is?
Yeah. So, I've got generally a 10-year vision that I'm working on outlining right now, but at its core is we need to be able to support founders from idea to Series A as Exponential Impact. And so we would have programming and supports in this city that we actively are running that will help people in that stage. And the reason I say to Series A is just, we're still, when you look at startup ecosystem, so Series A funding rounds generally. And the reason I use that as a benchmark is, Series A is anywhere, let's say around $5 to $10 million that somebody would be raising. It kind of depends on where you're looking at and different ecosystems you're in, but that's generally what I'll call that round, and could be up to $20 million or so. It kind of just depends. But really it's kind of that they've taken the jump from those initial funding rounds. They've shown a good amount of traction, and now they're getting larger investors involved. And so within this, I guess I'll call it the spectrum of funding, there's pre-seed all the way to, it could go Series E and beyond. And you get bigger and bigger players as you keep going. Okay. But the reason I say that kind of earlier stages is we're still in many ways a more a younger ecosystem for
Yeah.
startups. You know, it's not like Boulder started
Mhm.
before we did, Denver did before we did. But we do have a pretty stable and a thriving defense tech, cyber, space tech. All of those things have been thriving for a while. But our organizations, for instance, and when I say ours, I mean XI, we're about 7, 8 years old. Catalyst Campus is around 10 years old. Like, we've all kind of been able to get ourselves established. And now it's okay, we've covered our own basic needs. We've got a good feel of what our programs are. Now we can start to look beyond our own walls and start to think, who are those partners in the ecosystem that we can work with more to help elevate the entire region?
Okay.
And so that's your Catalyst Campus, your Emergent Campus down in Florence and Trinidad. Thinking UCCS and their EPIC program, their Torch Grant program, places like CyberWorks at USAFA. There's the Innovation Hub over at 2424 Garden of the Gods. Like, there's a lot here, and now we can start to bring these pieces together. And that's the exciting part, is like, we can start to create the narrative of here's the really cool things that are happening in the city that may have been a bit siloed before, that people are starting to notice more and more.
You create that narrative because that helps you help your people that you're trying to grow their startups in.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, what we're really looking to focus on is, for startups, they need access to talent, they need access to capital, and they need access to customers. And so the more that we can have that narrative of here's all the things that are happening in the city, the more we can attract good talent, you know, people that are going to work in these startups, work in these companies, the more that we can attract capital who say, okay, well, there's a thriving ecosystem there. They have enough supports to help a startup in that region that I can say, yeah, I'm willing to fund you. I know that you have people that are going to help you get more customers. I know that you have investor connections that can help you get to that next round of funding. And those things are really important. And so, you know, the other part that I said was access to customers. You know, how do we create that ecosystem where we have more access to people from across the country that are willing to buy a product, or, you know, we have connections in this city that can help people get from 0 to 1. They can get that first customer, and they can start to get those testimonials and then start to branch out from there.
Yeah. And
so
you guys guide people how to branch out too, right?
Exactly. You know, and I think that's definitely one of the things that we find in our programs is that, you know, a piece of the value that we provide is that we can help provide clarity and focus. I mean, I'm sure you guys experience this and running this, like, at the beginning, you're like, all right, there's 20 different things that I could do right now. What do I really need to focus on?
The first couple episodes didn't even have video because I just wanted to get it going.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you know, that's the MVP. That's the minimum viable product. And then you get a little traction. You're like, oh, I got 10 listeners, and then I got 20, and then I got 100. And we've got mentors and people in this community that are honestly, they have that give first mentality. And that is huge here.
That's what I noticed when I got here.
I love it. I mean, that's kind of everything for this community. It means so much because there's that entrepreneur ethos of, yeah, I'm willing to give back. I may get it back at some point, but generally it's somebody already gave back to me, and so now I'm passing it along, or it's going to come back in some way. But that's not really, the intention isn't to get back. It's more, I'm going to give first, just knowing that this is going to help the ecosystem as a whole.
For sure. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's pervasive here. And really that's like the mentors, the community, that is where people find so much of the value in working with us, is that we can help get those connections and really help provide clarity and focus.
Did you ever read that book? And I can't believe I never even brought this up to Andrew. It was a book I read 10 years ago, back when Catalyst Campus was opening up. Cause I got all excited. I was there when that opened up way back 10 years ago. It was called Startup Communities. It's
Eric Reese, I think. I've got it on my desk right now.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's from like the whole group. It's called Startup Communities. And it's from the group, right, that kind of helped jumpstart the startup community in Boulder specifically, right?
Is that Brad Feld and such too involved with?
Right.
I can't remember if he was the author.
He is.
I remember.
Author.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, you're jogging my memory. Yeah, that's exactly what it was about. Yeah, it's awesome book. It's pretty much how to like jumpstart a startup community in your own community. That's like what the whole book's about and how they did it.
Yeah. And honestly, like we're not recreating the wheel here. We take ideas from some of the things that they've done that are in that very book, and actually Brad, like I want to get Brad down here. I'd love to get him out here for a conversation. And, cause really like there's, community here deserves to be having conversations of those level. And Brad has
Let's
been
clip this and send it to him.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because
Yes.
he's been doing the tour and I haven't made an ask, so that's on me to go make an ask. And but I this will be my official ask is I really
On
want to
record.
get him down here. Yeah, I think they've done something really special up in Boulder, but also he was involved in that across the country, and I think it was it Foundry, their capital firm, and so it's. It's about how do we start these up across the country because there's smart people everywhere, and it doesn't just need to be software engineering smarts. It can be anything that is an innovation that people are willing to build and others are going to invest in.
So would you guys say your guys are like a Y-Combinator?
Yeah, that would be a very similar. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We'd be comparable. So, Y-Combinator, and I think a difference there is like they have that global reach.
Yes.
And so they're
And
pulling.
Sam Altman. So
Yeah, they're pulling from across the globe. And they have access to capital immediately within their programs and in some of their programs. And so that's a big piece for founders is that you can have that equity.
Yeah.
At the moment, we don't take equity in our startup, so we don't provide cash for equity or anything like that. And honestly, a great thing about that is that we're not at that point. We're not focused on the business that's coming through. We're focused on the entrepreneur at the core of that business. And so we're really focused, our mission is best entrepreneurs humanly possible. We're focused on that human that's at the center of that business. Because truth is that this one might be the one that takes off, but it might not. Like the odds are that it's not going to take off.
That's the odds, yeah. That's any business.
Exactly. But could be 2 or 3 or 4 down the road. If you've got those skills, the frameworks, if you've got the connections in the community around you as you go through those, that's what's going to help you be more successful.
Raise the odds.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to do. Probability wise, we're trying to make it more likely that you are successful in whatever terms of success you're looking for. Because some people that's raising funds, most people though, at the end of the day, it's like, I want to have a valuable company that is contributing to our community or contributing to society. And so, it's a different measure for a lot of people.
We'd like to take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
Brightleaf Energy. Brightleaf Energy is revolutionizing how businesses approach sustainability.
They're the experts in building decarbonization, bringing collaboration, innovation, and flexibility to every project.
Whether you need a strategic decarbonization roadmap or flexible engineering support to scale your team, Brightleaf helps you crush your ESG goals while optimizing facility performance.
Learn more at brightleafenergy.com. That's brightleafenergy.com.
Junkin Hall.
Need to clear out clutter fast?
Junkin Hall is Colorado Springs' go-to for same-day junk removal.
With the eco-friendly service and a 5-star team you can trust.
Visit junkinhall.com to schedule your free estimate today. That's JUNKNHAUL.com.
Bolton Co. Executive Coaching.
Up feels better than stuck. You know that. But in this market, how do you get unstuck and get ahead as an executive?
Our guy JB is an executive coach at Bolton Co. Coaching, where he believes you don't have to change who you are. You just need an injection of effectiveness and a proven competitive edge roadmap for your way up. Head to boltonco.net. That's boltonco.net. Be Our Guest Getaways. Be Our Guest Getaways specializes in Disney cruise resort and theme park vacations.
Planning a Disney vacation can be stressful. Let Be Our Guest Getaways provide you with concierge-level service for free.
Learn more at beourguestgetaways.com. That's beourguestgetaways.com.
Planet Duct. Planet Duct is the #1 choice for professional air duct cleaning in Colorado Springs and Southern Colorado. With state-of-the-art equipment and top-tier service, they make sure the air in your home or business is clean and allergen-free. Breathe easier with Planet Duct. Learn more at planetduct.com.
Awesome Home Services. Awesome Home Services delivers top-notch HVAC solutions for your home. Whether you need heating, cooling, or system maintenance, they ensure your comfort year-round. Visit awesomeservice.com for your HVAC needs. That's awesomeservice.com.
Proud American Electrical and Solar.
Give Proud American Electrical and Solar a call today for all your electrical and solar needs. They are locally owned and operated business right here in Colorado Springs. If you're looking for information on solar, this is the company you will want to call. Check out their website at proudamericansolar.com. Use promo code COSBusiness for a 5% discount today.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care offers affordable, accessible healthcare with a focus on you. They provide exceptional primary care without the hassle of insurance barriers. Experience a patient-centered approach. Learn more at pinnacleapc.com.
And now let's get back to the show. I also want to talk about strategic partnerships because it's been so cool to finally see you guys link up with Catalyst Campus, with Epic from UCCS, and all the other ones that are around town. Is that more of a recent occurrence? And talk about like the evolution of that, because I think that's the mission critical thing that needs to happen in order for Colorado Springs to be put on the map for this type of environment. But talk about that a little bit more.
No. So we have partnered with them in the past in different ways. I think and excuse me. A little change that I've made is just recognizing how important it is that we all really work together very consistently. Is I meet with Catalyst Campus every week and have a conversation with their leadership about, hey, what are ways that we can work together? How can we bring our cohorts together? We're working on establishment of an angel network. So working with Catalyst Campus, because we both at the end of the day have very similar goals. Mm-hmm. And Dawn is a fantastic partner over there at Catalyst Campus and has the bigger picture in mind of, hey, we're going to help our companies. And at the end of the day, we're helping them be really successful here. And we want to grow the ecosystem so that everybody else can benefit too. And so it's really nice to have partners like that. And, but we have been more intentional. COS Rising, we started that last year and then continued it this year. And we worked really closely with UCCS and their Epic program. So Luke Doster, Larry Plummer, they're fantastic. Worked with them and Catalyst and pulled together 3 days of events and honestly had just a really great showing of founders, of entrepreneurs that were willing to get their hands dirty, because that was the goal this time around. We're not just doing presentations at people. I as much as I love sometimes a good lecture, it's rare. More often than not, I want to get my hands dirty. Mm-hmm. And so we did a problem to prototype workshop. We had hands-on people in 4 hours. We're building a tool or using tools to build a pitch and a product in 4 hours with a team. Super cool. People really enjoyed that program. We had AI builders. So we had 4 different startups, including Boodlebox too, who came in and pitched their product, how they're building using AI. A couple of our cohort companies came through and pitched on some really cool products that they're building with AI, it's built into it. So really exciting. Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, I went to UCCS. So I was there when Epic was kind of getting formulated too. And it's just so cool to see it, like I said, all these things come together in the way that it is. And I love the COS Rising. I would like to see one day, Denver or Colorado startup, Denver startup. I would like for it to be here, or a segment of those days here in Colorado Springs, because I just think there's so much talent here. And if we can get it all together, I think we can actually do something very special like that. Because Denver, going to downtown Denver for Startup Week is awesome. But There should be something like that definitely here, because there's a lot of great talent here. What do you think about that?
I mean, honestly, that's what we found this time around. And we did a pitch competition on the last day, and we filled the room at Catalyst. We had over 100 people there.
That's awesome.
We had 5 pitches from founders across Southern Colorado, and we were pretty intentional about providing that funding specific to Southern Colorado, just because there realistically at the moment are fewer opportunities when it comes to some of those funding resources. And so we had 5 pitches, and it was fantastic. The energy, you could feel it. It was palpable. We had people from Fremont County pitching, several folks around here kind of in this region. And it was just it was really, really good. I'll brag a little bit in that we had 2 of our accelerator cohort companies that graduated in the past that won the top 2 prizes, and they got real money, man. They got $10,000 for the first prize, $5,000 for the second prize. And when you're a startup that, is thinking about, all right, I got this month, I got 2 months runway, I got 3 months runway, I got 6 months, that matters. That's your rent for the next, few months. So it matters.
Oh, yeah, it definitely matters. I actually know that personally because I'm in the process of building an app for someone who's paid me a little bit to build it for them recently. And I actually think I need to have a conversation with him about having a conversation with you, you guys.
Please. I would love it.
We're building it together essentially. I'm doing like all the dev work.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about it. It's something that helps the community. So I think like it even lines specifically with your ethos. Like it's something that helps events, which events are awesome. So it's like, it's exciting. It's exciting stuff.
we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, when you get out there and like you guys are, when you talk with enough people here, you start to find out about all the cool things that are happening in town. I mean, Dennis Rourke with Terra Firma, they just did that announcement. I don't know if you guys have had him on yet, but you should at some point.
Okay.
They came through a couple of our programs. They're developing Li-Fi. I mean, it's Wi-Fi using light, essentially.
Oh, okay.
I could probably do a better job explaining that, but I'm going to let Dennis do that. But that's happening right here in our community. There are some really cool companies that have been grown here, really experienced founders. And I think that to me is actually a thing that does separate us a little bit from other communities. It's a little different from what I've gathered is when I look at our community of founders, so specifically thinking about the startup and really it applies in just small business and entrepreneurs too. We have such a diverse range of folks that are getting involved in it. It's not just, at I'll say the stereotypical like 20 to 29 years old, fresh out of college or in college that are building this thing. And then, they're all living in the dorm. We got people who are 60 plus, all the way down to college who are working on incredible startups. Ron Hardman, I don't know if you guys have talked with him either, but we'll hook that up too. He started Kilroy's Workshop, which is the trade school here in town, one of the largest in the country. But before that, he worked at Oracle. He wrote their software manuals.
Wow.
He worked at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Nice. And then he started his trade school and he said, you know what, I'm going to write software so that I can manage my trade school. And then now he's selling that. Like he's selling it to trade schools across the country. We got people like that, who have so much experience in the workforce who are coming alongside some younger folks who are, coming out, maybe have a little bit of experience and are looking to build something. And it's something special with that. Just the difference in experience that you find of people getting into the startup game.
Yeah. And the cool thing about tech too is it's usually cutting edge things that haven't been made yet. Like you get to, that's where I thrive. I love innovation and stuff like that. So it's exciting to see all that. I'm sure for you.
I'm the luckiest person in the world because I walk into the building every day and I'm basically the dumbest person in this building. And I am totally fine with that. There are smarter people than me here every day working and I get to learn something from them. But it was cool. Like our last demo day, we had a woman, her name's Evan. She has a startup called Hera, and it's essentially an AI tool that IVF clinics can use so that they can work with patients when patients have questions but can't get into the clinic. And it frees up time for doctors so that they can
the compliance on that has got to be tricky.
Yeah, well, and they have worked that out. And what I'll say is like Evan, she came in just under a year ago, I'd say, to this community or ecosystem for startups. She came in XI and didn't have the product like roadmap built out. None of that was really there. She had her co-founder and they had a really good idea and they were trying to figure out like what's next. And I'll give a lot of credit. We have, some really good mentors in the building who just kind of leaned in and she really kind of bought in. And now they're at the point where they're beta testing this. They're launching it in Q1 of this next year in a couple of clinics. They're getting that feedback and they're going to bring it to market. And it's a really cool application because it frees up a doctor's time. It frees up a clinic's time to be able to do better with their patients. so like that's how AI can be used to really help.
For sure.
And so that's the exciting stuff.
There's a
for
lot
me.
of people focus on the negative stuff, but there's so much positive stuff too with that AI can help with. Like,
Yeah. let's use it so we can free up time to focus more on the community things, more on
Absolutely.
the connection, like more on ways that we can help people. And there are a lot of those positives out there, and we have a ton of them coming through XI, which is the exciting part.
Yeah, and talk about like you're talking about, hey, I'm like the dumbest person walking into this building, but you
Yeah.
also offer something. And not saying you're the dumbest person, but
No, I take it.
But I'm saying like there's something that this place offers those folks because they are smart, but they're not necessarily plugged into like how to run a business, how to scale a business, and mentorship. So talk about the mentorship aspect of this because I think that's super important. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't have, the wherewithal to how to figure this whole thing out in business or get connected with, different types of investors or whatever it might be, then you're essentially nowhere. So talk about like the mentorship piece of this whole thing.
I think at the end of the day, where we get the best feedback is on the mentors that we have in our program. And we're really intentional about who we bring in as mentors. And so for each company that comes through an XI cohort, we find an entrepreneur mentor. So somebody who has been an entrepreneur or currently is.
Is David a mentor? David Silva?
David Silva, not yet, but
Okay.
he will be. And that's and
He'd
that's
be a
the
great mentor.
that's the exciting part though of having alumni and starting to build that kind of that loop where it's you come in, you go through a cohort, and then a couple cohorts down the road, now you're the mentor. And you can provide really good feedback. And David was a great example of somebody who came in and kind of had this direction that he was going, and then talked with a few people at XI and whether it was his mentor or somebody like Mago, and really kind of pivoted his product. And he's just kind of rocking now. And it's incredible to see, for me, the change in somebody's confidence as they start to find that clarity. And that is what the mentors provide. And when we have really good mentors, they're helping somebody have that clarity, figure out their next steps, and continue. Like at the end, this person knows, all right, here's the direction I'm headed. And the confidence is booming from them. You can feel it.
Yeah.
And we could see that with David, could see that with another guy, Jonathan, who came through recently. A bunch of people from our recent cohort. It's really, that's where a ton of the value is. And so, and we really do, I'll say like, at the beginning, you get what mentors you can get. As time has gone on, we've built this bigger and bigger network and community. And now we can be a little bit more choosy, and we can really try to find and take the time to get the right mentor for somebody based on, what their needs are at the time when they're building their business. Could be very early on, or they're looking to scale. And those are two different mentors. Those are two different skill sets. And so we really are intentional about trying to match somebody up with what they need. And that has made a huge difference in the program.
Yeah, look at all that cross-pollination just by people who just come to the cohort, the accelerator, or even who just co-work out of here. Because there is a co-working element of this place too that I think folks have kind of co-worked out of here. And then they met Mago. They met all these different people just by co-working here. Talk about that piece too, because you guys, that's one of the bigger things that we promoted when we first came in here was like, it's got a co-working element to it. Because people, every guest, honestly, that we bring on here, we give them kind of the walk around, and they're like, what? This is here? And like, I can come here if I want to, as long as whatever I let this person know. I'm like, it's essentially, And they're blown away. Even entrepreneurs who are, worth tens of millions of dollars, like, I want to come here and do like a strategy meeting in that conference room. Yeah. And it's just like, this is incredible. And I think that we should get the word out even more about that. But talk about like the co-working aspect of exponential impact as well.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna tie it back to the thing that I started off with is like, this is a space where there are ideas in the air. And we were really trying to be intentional about curating that space. And so it's a space where you can come in and get feedback. And I can walk through and say, hey, you need a software dev, I got somebody here for you. You need somebody who can help you with your architecture. I can help you with that. I got a marketing guy who's here regularly. I got Owen Hill with ClearCard is here, I think, selling, 9 hours a day, just crushing sales. And if you really want to get a sales lesson, sit there and listen to Owen every day. There are some fantastic people here, and they're willing to give their time, which is the important part. I don't know if I've met a person that has ever gone to Mago and said, hey, can I have a few minutes, and him not drop everything and say, hey, I'm happy to sit down with you and help you through whatever the problem is. But it's that place where you can get feedback, where I really am trying to push and want people to be able to give honest feedback and know that it's a safe place for that. It's a lab. We're testing things here. When you think about startup, it's generally it's the scientific method. We have the hypothesis. We go and we check out, is it working? If it is, I'm going to try to do that more. If it's not, then okay, we're going to go right back to it, redo our hypothesis and then try again. And so I think that's what we're really trying to do here. And with the co-working space, we offer it to any alumni of our programs, and then anybody who's who's working in tech and innovation is able to come in here. We'll do the tour with them, talk with them. If we'll get a good feel of where they're at with their business and their company, and if they're in a spot where they're progressing, then we'll really work with them to get them a free spot here in the space. And I say free because the important part is that we're building infrastructure for entrepreneurs and startups. And if you're having to think about, well, am I going to pay rent on a space to get started, or am I going to put that towards my business? We'd rather have you put it towards your business and get that off the ground. If you're having to think about rent versus kind of food at home, like we want to take that out of the equation as much as possible and try to make it a part of the infrastructure here for entrepreneurs. So that's what we're doing for founders, and that's where we get to see some really cool people coming through here every day.
Yeah, I can tell that you light up when you're talking about these entrepreneurs. You can see it in your eyes. You get that little Mudita type of energy.
Yeah. I'll talk about them all day, man. We have the best people in this community, and it is like they're so giving of time, of energy, of experience. I mean, Jesse is my board chair. Started Intelligent Software Solutions years ago. Scaled that company from 4 people to 800. Had an exit, and he could be off doing anything else. But he's got about 6 companies that he mentors and advises. And then he's in here almost every week, but every other week at a minimum, meeting with me and talking about how do we grow XI? How do we grow this ecosystem? And, that's a special thing that we have here when you got people like that who have had all of that success, who are willing to come back and say, oh, I want to help the person who's just starting out, who just needs somebody to tell them turn right instead of left. That's
I think
it.
we might have met him. I think he was the one that came through while we were setting up a couple weeks ago.
Probably. He's great individual, and just a great person. Similar to Vance. Like we have some of the best people in the world that have really just helped get this thing started. And I'm lucky that I get to continue help keep the ball rolling and keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk about this concept that you had too, ideas in the air.
Yeah.
This is a concept that name of that concept.
It's a great concept.
Yeah. Break that down for us.
Yeah. So I had a professor, Dr. Rosentraub, in undergrad, and it was for the stadium development class. And so what I loved about this was, he was talking about, and I think, at the time we were talking about the big house in Ann Arbor. We were talking about the Brooklyn Nets stadium, which he had helped with building some of that and stuff. Right? Yeah, this was and this was actually in my sport management days. So this was before that. This was what led me to urban planning, was just this idea that we can create spaces and places where people from all different backgrounds come together, and there are just going to be ideas floating in the air from that. And that is where innovation occurs. And that's where really, like in many ways, a lot of the American economy comes from, is that we have ideas that are flowing out of our country. We export ideas. And so if we can create those spaces,
and we import talent,
and we exactly. And if we can create those spaces and places where we can export ideas, then we're doing really well as a community and a city. And we're doing even better when those ideas are investable and people want to buy those ideas. So, that was really where that concept came from, was Dr. Rosentraub talking about how do we create those spaces. And I love that concept of, that brings me back to sports. Could have people from two totally different backgrounds, two totally different places, but they're brought together by sport. And because of that, they start to talk with each other and experience what each other's cultures are and all of that.
It's like the movie Remember the Titans, like
Yeah.
it's like, that's such a great movie because it's more than just football in that
It's the
movie,
best.
right? It's about the
Yeah.
whole black and white segregation movement and them coming together and eventually like becoming a melting pot of a team and then having a perfect season. Like what a cool movie to kind of talk about like these different folks from all different parts kind of coming together and building something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And I think of that like when you're talking about the things that you want to do. And how you've built your career, it's all kind of led this same way of like a melting pot of just like community building.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And when you have these conversations about like reaming the towel really and what XI can be, is there like ideas you throw out there about like, I don't know, like doing big live events with entrepreneurs, TED Talk type of things? Like what are some of the fun ideas? And you don't have to disclose much if you don't want to, but
dude, so a lot of this, so there's things that we're definitely doing and there's things that we're looking at in the roadmap. So right now we're definitely doing more workshops and events over this next year. In Q1, we've already got some AI workshops lined up, really hands-on things. So people are going to come in and actually build together in a facilitated session. We're really focusing more on the hands-on doing. Like you're going to come in and you're going to build the marketing plan or you're going to build a campaign. We're going to do those things versus kind of lecture on those things or talk about those things. I still think part of that's important, but really trying to get to that hands-on. So you'll see more of that in this next year and even Q1 coming up. We've already got a bunch of those lined up. We are going to be bringing in, pitch night wise, we're doing a bit of a reimagining on pitch nights and we're working to, at this point, set up some quarterly pitch nights that will have just a little bit more presentation to them. So in the past, it's been a little bit lower stakes and we're still looking to find a place where we can have kind of the lower stakes pitch, get really good feedback. And with the pitch nights, we're looking to kind of just elevate a bit of the presentation and show off, here's what's happening in this region and how can we draw in more folks that might be interested in potentially investing in these products and maybe partnering or being customers of these folks. So that's one of the ways we're going. And then you're going to see COS Rising, an evolution of that. So part of what we're working on is who are the partners that we want to bring to the table and that have reached out to us to say, we want to do something along the lines of SoCo Rising, more of Southern Colorado coming together. Because we have partners in, like I mentioned, Trinidad, in Florence, in Pueblo. We have folks like city or town. Victor reached out, talked with them the other week, and they're really interested in, hey, we'd love to get in on building what you guys building on what is going on. And so we, for us, it's, hey, we're building a community and we've got folks from all these areas that are coming here for cohorts, being a part of conversations and presentations. So we want to build that out. So I think you'll see more of that, building partnerships with those other regions in Southern Colorado so that we can really elevate all of the entrepreneurs and build that community tree to be bigger. Pitch night wise, COS or SoCo Rising, whatever we're going to call it. The big thing is that we're going to do the pitch event again this next year. And so again, real dollars attached to the competition. We had really high quality pitches this time around. I expect it'll be even better this next time. And so you'll see that pitch competition really become a premier event down here. We'll still do our demo days like we do for our cohorts and still show off, here's all the cool innovation and tech that's happening right here in Colorado. And we want to show that off for the community. And at the end of the day, like what we're trying to show is that there is a spot for just about anybody in this town to engage within the startup ecosystem. And I say that from the standpoint of you can provide feedback, you can be a customer, you could help somebody with their prototype and giving feedback. If you're a larger business or a corporation, you can come in and help provide that feedback or take the sales call and be the first client, be the first customer for somebody, help them get started and help provide feedback that's going to get you the product that you really want or need. And so really there are spaces for all these different types of folks in our community to engage in the startup ecosystem. And so we're really trying to find what are those what are those events, what are those workshops that are going to help build that, and how are we going to make it so that everybody in this community understands that they have a role in how we advance the startup ecosystem. So that's a lot of the types of things that you'll see. We are working on establishing Angel Network again as well. And so working with Catalyst Campus, working with folks like Larry Plummer at UCCS and other partners in the region, the folks who ran SoCo Angels in the past, the Chris Franzes and the Leaf Ullmans, those types of folks who have done a lot of this work. We're learning from them, bringing them into the conversation and saying, what do we need to do this time around to make sure that a Southern Colorado Angel group is sticky? And I think that we've got a ton of potential. I know that there's wealth in this community, and I know that there's people who want to engage in startup, but are trying to figure out the first steps. And so we're right now actively working to figure out who are the partners that we might need for some of the due diligence pieces. How do we really establish the structure to make sure that this is something consistent, repeatable, and that we can make it so that people in this community who want to engage on the investment side have those opportunities. So that's another thing coming. So it's a lot.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Was Leaf on the show before?
No, but I had a conversation with him at the exchange, and he was supposed to be on the show, but I don't think yeah, we'll cut this out. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll get Leaf on the
Yeah,
show.
we'll get Leaf.
Leaf's on our board.
Oh, sweet. Awesome.
So yeah, he's and Leaf, Leaf is another one of those guys.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is a good example of a thriving ecosystem. Is Leaf worked for Jay Jesse at his company, and then Leaf spun off after that and started his own ed tech company, and built it, did really well, ended up selling or exiting the company, and so at that point, that's how the ecosystem works. He then has opportunities to potentially mentor or become an angel investor himself for other companies. And that is when we can see that the ecosystem is really working. It just is that perpetuating, startup happens, people have good exits and do really well. They start the next thing. They create more jobs, create the next founders that are part of their business. They grow, they all exit. Now they're starting more startups. And so I think we're seeing more and more of that, which is really, really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I could see you plugging into this big time because he has that more technical brain. And like these folks, I know as we've had them come up to us as we set up all these weeks, years now here. I definitely think you plugging into something like this would be really cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I definitely need to get plugged in more to Exponential Impact, I think.
Dude, every Thursday morning we do something called Tech Connect.
Oh.
And it's coffee in the kitchen. And we'll get anywhere right now from about 20 to 25 tech founders. People are just working on software stuff. People are building things.
Do they like to nerd out on things like that?
People love to nerd out there.
Okay.
So it is. So that's your spot.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you love to nerd out on that stuff and you have an interest in kind of building that business or connecting in that space, it's happening consistently here now. I feel really good about it. When I started, that was kind of one of the first things.
What time?
9 to 10. 9 to 10 a.m. every Thursday morning, except for Thanksgiving.
That was going to be one of my questions I asked too, is like, how does one like get involved if they're someone that might be a right fit for Exponential Impact?
Yeah. So honestly, the best way to start would be come to a Thursday morning Tech Connect.
That's what I was thinking.
So if you're interested in that tech or that startup scene, come to a Tech Connect. Start to meet a few folks. One of our staff is always there. We'll connect with you there and introduce you to folks, or we'll walk you through the building, talk about the programs. But that's a great place to start. Other than that, we've got our website, we've got all our social medias. Like if anybody reaches out, then we're meeting with them and really trying to just say, hey, there's opportunities to connect in this ecosystem, and we want to see you be successful. So there are. The thing that I haven't mentioned is that, we've got our ecosystem, but then there's the ecosystems across the state. And that's where the power really starts to come in, is that, we do a great job down here, but we have partners at Innosphere Ventures up in Fort Collins, and they do great work in bio, life sciences, climate tech. They have really fantastic program. Denver has, Denver Angels and Denver Ventures. They've got tech stars up there. There's an accelerator called Access Mode, which is generally for founders from less privileged backgrounds, or generally founders of color, women, minorities, and I think there's something else. But they have a fantastic program, and they provide a $20,000 non-dilutive, so a grant for founders that join that program. So that's that's meaningful. There's things in Boulder, there's tech stuff, like all of that, like it comes together. And so for us, even if it's not our program that's going to be the fit at the time, it might be that we need to go, we're going to connect you with one of those folks. I've connected somebody with the warehouse up in Loveland, and they were like, this is exactly what I needed, because it's more of a manufacturing type accelerator. Like that's part of our role, and we know that it comes back to us because they'll send folks our way too. And that's when we see the ecosystem is really rising, is that all of us are starting to work more together.
Yeah.
We've got people that are coming, up and down the corridor, and it's more seamless than it used to be.
Man, we'd love to help curate any way possible. If it's like hosting like an event where we kind of do Q&A with like rapid fire entrepreneurs, I think that'd be super fun for us to have as part of something like that for COS Rising. Even if it was like on stage live, me and Andrew, and like just have folks come on who are participants or whatever. That'd be super fun.
1,000%.
For us to participate in, for sure.
We would love to do something like that. Yeah, there is so much potential in this community and so much opportunity. And I think that's, when I started with XI, that was exactly what I saw. Is like, there is so much potential and opportunity in this community, and we just got to keep growing it. And honestly, like your guys' podcast, what you guys are doing, that's what grows this community. And if we can share with a few more people of, hey, here's what entrepreneurs are doing right now, here's some of the failures they've experienced, keep going. Or if you need a community to help you get through that problem, like, we've got it here. And I think that's something really special. So I would love to have you guys involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, like our next steps are, of course, eventually building out a studio space and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And we could talk later, without recording, on that, what that looks like. But we definitely are thinking about you guys in mind with something like that too.
Yeah.
Just because you guys have been so amazing to us. We were in a studio for 3 or 4 years.
And by studio, we mean so we don't have to set up every single time.
I totally get it. Yeah. Exactly. You can get here at get here at 6, not 4.
Yeah, exactly.
For a 6:30 podcast.
Yeah. So I mean, so that was a lot less obviously set up and tear down and everything too. But like just coming here and the look of the show, it's because of how gracious you guys are to helping us and contribute to our success. And so we'd love to link arms with you guys for the long term, because it's just so special when we can see it. We can see what you guys are building and how you guys are linking arms, and we're all about it, just so you know.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm interested. And and I'll say too, like UCCS owns this building. Like that partnership is huge for us. Like they have been incredible partners in making this ecosystem, like getting it kickstarted. Honestly, it takes investment from everywhere in this community to make a startup ecosystem happen, from the university, from the city, who's a fantastic partner of ours, the county, like utilities invests, like all of these different pieces are what helps contribute to a successful startup ecosystem. And so we're just honestly on that path of, all right, there's more out there that we got to bring in from this city, and we got to bring in some of these larger businesses, larger corporations, small to mid-sized businesses that have had success, start to bring them more and more into this so that we can really build out that pipeline and that mentor network in the community.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about some fun recent personal occurrences in your life.
Yeah.
You're recently married, right? Married now?
Yes.
Okay. So,
10-10. Yeah.
Dude, congratulations. Talk about that too. Like, entrepreneurs, especially when they're younger and they're like kind of getting into this game, it's usually like, most of them are usually single when they get in, and they worry about getting in relationships and delineating their time, right? And figuring all that out. But like for you going into this role and kind of breaking up the work-life balance of this whole thing, how has that been? How has it been for you? Because obviously you've only been in Colorado Springs for less than a decade now, right?
Yeah, we're just shy of a decade, about 9 years. So yeah, I mean, I met Becca just over 4 years ago. So we met back in 2021 and then got married on 10/10 of this year. And she's incredible. She's an amazing woman. But I met her here, at the beer garden of all places. Her boss had reached out to me and said, "Hey, we should meet up." And I was like, coming out of COVID, I needed to go out and just meet people again. And so met her there, and honestly, like, when you talk about that kind of that work-life balance piece, it's, for me, it's been so far, and of course I'm newer in this piece, but it's the trust that we've built with each other, and the fact that she really respects what I'm trying to do, and I really respect what she's doing with life, and that she is such a good person at building her community. So she's one of those who, she's got the running club, and she's part of a book club, and she helps with the trailability program here in the spring. So she loves to be outdoors, loves the hiking, loves the running, all of those things, and she's built a community around that. And I want to support and respect everything that she does with that. And she's been really instrumental in that person who I can bounce everything off of and come home on the hard days and kind of let it out and talk through, whether it's working with entrepreneurs and XI, or, working with the baseball team, and, and working with kids. Like, my days are pretty long, especially when it gets to the season, and, it's 6 days a week of baseball on top of work, and it is tough. But I think it's generally that, we've really gotten to know who each other are, and have that trust in each other, and have that trust that, we have that positive intent. There's that saying of, assume positive intent in your partner. And I think that's been one way that we've been able to really grow with each other, is that, if I go and do something and maybe it wouldn't have aligned with the way that she would have viewed it, she can generally find herself in the spot of, well, I know that he didn't do it for some reason to be against me. He's doing this because he thinks it's going to help, in some way, myself or the community or her, or, it's something like that. So that's been really big for me, is that just assuming positive intent, trusting each other.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I know Bill Rempelos goes to Tech Connect from Home Day, by the way. Shout out.
Love Bill. He's fantastic.
Yeah. He was a sponsor for our show for quite some time. But I was just going to say, his wife is also in charge of another book club. So I don't know if your wife and him, or his wife, are
two separate ones. Okay. I did talk with him about that, because she's crushing. Bill's wife has a massively successful book club, and it's pretty cool. Becca's is, they consistently, and it's something that I really respect, is like, she, they get 15 or 20 women that, read the same book, come in, have the conversation, and they it is like, it's such a good community to have built. So sorry I interrupted you, but she has a wildly successful. I'm super impressed with it. I was talking to him the other day, actually, at Tech Connect, and I was like, man, is she gonna start charging for that? Or, like, she's got to be doing a ton of work for that. And he's like, yeah, she's doing a lot to make it happen. So there's really, I guess, a piece in all of that is like, there's something to be said for those community builder people who are behind the scenes, that are setting up the chairs for the community event, that are putting the chairs down, that are, making the coffee, that are doing those things that make it happen. Community doesn't just happen. There's got to be intentionality there. I used to tell people that, like, if I'm looking for a really good volunteer or a really good employee, I was really looking for the person that was helping out after the event was done, that was helping usually break down the chairs. And I'm like, that's somebody that's your volunteer. That's the volunteer extraordinaire who's willing to go the extra mile every time.
Sounds like that's who you were too.
That was who I strived to be, was the person who I was around to make sure that everything had intentionality. It was prepared for. Somebody was going to be there to break it down. Somebody was going to be there to put the things away. And like, I did do a good amount of that. I guess reflecting on it a little bit.
That's what I could tell. It sounded like from the beginning of your story, you were doing a lot of volunteer stuff, and that seems like that's who you are, and so it makes sense that that's who you look for too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it matters. You get to see you get to see people for kind of who they truly are, and that just just that piece of life's hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have the capacity to be able to give a little to help other people out, like I want to be able to do that, and I want to find the other people who are willing to do that too, because I know that those are the people who are going to really make a difference in other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just who I want to surround myself with.
It's
So.
beautiful, man. I think curating a community like you've done is there's a lot of great things that have come of it. I know of like even just me in my own little way, just helping friends or putting on like dinners or whatever, and like seeing friends, start from like right here in their career and then like really thrive in their life because of maybe little things I've done or maybe a combination of things I've done and other friends have done. And just seeing that, curation kind of really thrive for that person as they kind of work their way up and they're a product of, that positive reinforcement that you're trying to build. And I think that's the most rewarding thing of all is like seeing somebody that you've at least helped in little ways here and there. And then they're really like a David Silva. We've seen that too. He came up to us. I think it was last week when we were setting up, and like we love him. First of all, he's a sponsor of our show. He's always supported us. I met him in a coffee shop like a year ago.
Yep.
And it was
Check out datahubs.com.
Data Hubs, yeah.
Please.
He's amazing. And it's just so cool. Those what make all this work worth it, right? Is like those types of stories. It's just so cool to see, like you said, like when alignment happens. It's just like maybe you're off a little bit. Maybe you're misaligned just a little bit. But once you get aligned, it's like boom, it takes off. And it's just so cool. So what does that all mean to you? Like all that?
I think to a kid on my baseball team, his name's Kenny Jones. He was previously on my baseball team, graduated 2 years ago. He's now going to Vanderbilt University.
Wow. Okay.
Just such a fantastic kid. And I just remember having some conversation with him, and it meant a lot to me because he said, hey, there were some male influences in my life that really helped me be able to continue on this path. And a couple of his teachers that he had, and he included me in there. And that kind of meant everything to me. Is like, I definitely didn't do everything right the whole time, but I tried and I showed that I cared. And at the end of the day, like he learned a lot from me. I learned probably more from him. And that to me is what, like, that's really what a lot of life is about, is I'm able to learn from a lot of that piece of being a part of a community and helping build it and trying to be intentional about it.
Absolutely. Well, it seems like you found the right seat, friend, and in curating this whole community building aspect, whether it's through baseball or through, an accelerator or co-working. It's just really cool to see you light up and know that from our perspective, knowing that you're in the right seat for this journey. If this all went perfect 10 years from now, where do you see XI?
Yeah. I think, there's a few things. One, you'll see a bunch of successful companies that will have come out, and we're starting to see that now from a few years ago already. Is there's some companies that are seeing some real success. So you're going to see even more of those companies that will have come out, had a tie to XI, and now are down the road on their Series A, B, C, D, whatever funding. And so they're growing and building an employee base here. I think you'll see a thriving tech ecosystem to where somebody can quickly come into this community and know immediately how to get connected. And so they know, whether they should be working with Catalyst or XI or UCCS, they know immediately where to plug in and where to get those resources to help them grow. You're going to see, I think, a ton more of this dual use crossover. So defense tech companies having more commercial applications and vice versa. You're going to see more of commercial companies that have an application that could be used in defense or cyberspace. So you're going to see a lot of that. And honestly, like I truly believe that we've got some companies here in town that can be unicorns. And I think that they will have an attachment to XI. And so I'm really excited to see where some of these companies go. Especially as, AI is changing things. There's a bunch of people that are building really cool tech, but at the end of the day, they're all just giving back to the same community. So anybody will be able to plug in and feel like they can grow their business right here in the Springs.
Absolutely, Max. Well, this is your camera. By the way, before we give you your camera, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming out and
Thank you guys.
spilling all the wisdom, spilling all the stories with all the folks who kind of rub shoulders with us every once in a while as we're kind of setting up here. It's so cool to kind of hear the other side of that. So much appreciated. There's your camera. Where can we find you?
So you guys can find us at exponentialimpact.com. If you're on the tech side of things, please look for our accelerator applications, which close at the end of January. We'd love to have as many applications as possible from the state of Colorado. And then the other thing to check out is our Survive and Thrive Spice program. So if you're a local restaurant, maybe I'll talk about that next time around, but we have a restaurant program specifically coming out in December that will help restaurateurs as they look to grow. So be on the lookout if you're an entrepreneur that wants to grow around the Springs.
That's fantastic, man. Well, this has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.